Hello, my name is Chelsea Rushton and my research project question is, are CODAs better interpreters? Now, what is a CODA? A CODA is a child of a deaf adult. CODA interpreters are unlike any other. They bring a unique perspective to the profession, they are caught in the middle of two worlds, and are usually respected by the deaf community and other hearing interpreters who are not a CODA. They have most likely grown up in deaf culture and have been given the chance to learn and perfect their sign language skills throughout their life. Now, I'm going to discuss the research that I have found on this subject. There is not much research on the subject of whether or not CODAs are better interpreters. What was found will be discussed now. CODAs are usually looked at as better interpreters and are expected to be good interpreters because of their past history. However, research tells us that for some CODAs, interpreting comes naturally, but others have said they have struggled with the profession, which leads for them to work very hard to be a good interpreter. Because of CODA's background in the deaf community, non-CODA interpreters usually fear them and possibly feel as if they could never compare to a CODA interpreter. One burden that is placed on CODAs is the level of expectation that is put on them. Since they have years of experience because of their deaf parent, CODA interpreters are presumed to always have amazing interpreting skills. One question that is popular amongst research articles is if CODAs should attend formal training. According to what I have read while researching, it all depends on their skill level. Some CODAs have an excellent level of skills and do not need much training to become an amazing interpreter. Other CODAs have expressed they do not feel ready and want to have more formal training to fill in some blanks of the interpreting profession they are unsure of how to do. So now, how many CODAs have received formal training? Only 28% of CODAs have gone and completed formal training for interpreting. To me, that is a very low number, and it's honestly a little shocking. But, however, one special thing about CODAs that research has shown is that their life experiences cannot be taught or learned by anyone. Now, why is that? It is because if you are not a CODA, you cannot possibly understand what their life is like or how to relate to their experiences. Moving on to my method for this project. My method for this research project consisted of a 10-question interview that asked several different types of questions, all pertaining to CODAs, their lives as interpreters, and how they are perceived. The interview questions were answered by two hearing interpreters that are both working in the profession currently. This research was also paired with past research that were found in articles about CODA interpreters. The findings consist of a collaboration of all the research put together and how they compare and contrast to each other. I am going to go through a few of the questions that were asked and give a brief description of what the findings were. One of the questions asked the interpreters if they thought CODAs were better interpreters. This answer was torn down the middle. One interpreter had the same answer as the past research did, which was that CODA interpreters are not necessarily better interpreters, but they have a unique and useful perspective of the interpreting world and are usually very good interpreters. The other interpreter, however, said that they were better interpreters with no further explanation. The next question is, do you think because CODAs grew up in deaf culture, it gives them an advantage while interpreting? Research showed that the majority of CODA interpreters said they had interactions with other deaf people besides their parents at least once a week while growing up. The interpreters agreed that this is an advantage in the interpreting field to grow up in deaf culture because of the experience it gives the CODAs. Another question was, if you had to choose between a CODA and a non-CODA interpreter for the assignment, which would you choose? One interpreter said she would look at all the credentials of the interpreters and choose from there. The other interpreter said she would first look at the CODA interpreter because they are a CODA, but that did not mean the non-CODA interpreter did not have the skills required for the job. The next question is, do you think most CODAs think they are better interpreters just because they are a CODA? The study concluded that interpreters have never met a CODA that thought they were better than someone else. Research showed that several CODAs thought they actually needed more formal training. This showed CODA's level of respect and how humble they can be considering their level of experience. The last question I'm going to discuss is, what is CODA privilege and is it true? CODA privilege consists of something that a CODA would get or be better at simply because they are a CODA. In one of the articles from the research, it spoke about leaving a position on the RID Board of Directors specifically for a CODA. While I think this is actually useful to the interpreting field, it is also a form of privilege. The interpreters that were interviewed had not really heard of the term before. One interpreter even said CODAs are more oppressed than they are privileged. In conclusion, the intent of this project was to research whether or not CODAs are better interpreters as a whole. This project looked at articles to learn information that others thought about CODAs and the interpreting profession. It also looked at working interpreters' opinions on interview questions, their past experiences, and their thoughts on CODAs. After researching, it is obvious there needs to be more research done in several different parts of CODAs' lives, whether it be growing up, family history, interpreting, education, etc. Since there is not a lot of information, it was hard to come up with a right or wrong answer to the research question. Overall, it seems as if CODA interpreters are not necessarily better interpreters just because they are a CODA, but they can be amazing interpreters and have a unique life that has tremendous amount of involvement in the deaf community. Hopefully in the future there will be more research done on this topic so other students and future interpreters can learn and benefit from this information.